What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Alex Pereira response to Dricus Du Plessis. It remains to be seen if we'll see Alex Pereira and Dricus Du Plessis throw hands, but it certainly looks like if the champs have it their way, they're going to battle sooner than later. The war of words between them kicked off after DDP submitted Israel Adesanya at UFC 305, and Poatan made it clear he wants to return to 185 to face the champ. When Du Plessis was informed of the light heavyweight king's post, he argued that Pereira would be in for a short night against him. According to Du Plessis, Pereira's knockout loss to Adesanya at UFC 287 showed the cut to middleweight is severely compromising his chin. If you follow Poatan, you won't be surprised to hear that he's responded to DDP. In a recent video, Pereira claimed that he's good to go for one more bout at 185. I seen it wasn't good for me. That last one was a warning to me that I had to go up in weight, and that's what I did. But if you guys remember, when I went up in weight, I said I could do this again, go down to middleweight, but I need some time, need to recover. I think I was able to recover. I have 4 fights, if I'm not mistaken. New weight class where I took some time to rest. I think if I go down one more time, I'll do well. In addition, Pereira argued that DDP's comments show he's the one who's afraid to throw down. It's another guy, Dricus, who wants to fight against me. He said, yeah, come, I'm waiting for you. But no, he tried to make me scared, but he was the one who was scared. Now, all signs point to Du Plessis fighting Sean Strickland next. And Pereira is already booked to fight Khalil Rountree at UFC 307. But if they continue to win, maybe we will see this matchup in 2025. Up next, Merab Dvalishvili fires back at Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley and his coach, Tim Welsh, haven't been shy about trashing Merab Dvalishvili leading up to UFC 306. But a recent question Sugar asked Merab about his fellow Georgians has the bantamweight contender pretty fired up. Dvalishvili and O'Malley have been going at it via interviews and social media for a while now, even before they were booked to fight on September 14th. Not only that, the surging fighter has taken serious exception to some of the comments and insults Welsh has sent his way. More recently, the bantamweight champion asked the following question via X. Are all Georgians runts? That prompted the 33-year-old contender to fire back with this. Sugar Sean, you want to disrespect me. This is one thing. We will be professional and settle it in the cage. But now you and your coach crossed the line and disrespected my country. You will pay for this when I see you outside of the cage. Merab has already warned Welsh that it will be on site if he sees him in the streets. And now he's essentially saying the same thing about Sugar. But do you believe him? Or could a lot of this just be promo for the fight? We'll find out soon. It should be noted that not long ago, Merab didn't waste any time confronting a fan at a grappling event, who had apparently dissed the rugged contender. Paddy Pimblett versus Dan Hooker? Now that Paddy Pimblett has worked his way into the UFC's lightweight rankings, there's been plenty of talk about who the baddie could fight next. Well, it looks like Pimblett will be on board with fighting one of the division's toughest outs, Mr. Dan Hooker. Pimblett has moved into the number 15 spot of the UFC's lightweight division, following his thrilling submission win over Bobby Green at UFC 304. Hooker, meanwhile, continues to show that his days as a lightweight contender are far from over. At the recent UFC 305 card, he recorded a split decision win over Mateusz Gamrot, who many believed would put his vaunted ground game to work and record a win. In a recent video that went up on Pimblett's YouTube channel, the baddie reacted to UFC 305, and while discussing Hooker's win, the Liverpool fighter said this. Fight of the night so far of what I've watched. Let's see the decision anyway. I reckon Hooker, lat, to be honest, 29-28 Gamrot, 29-28 Hooker, upset. Dan Hooker back in the top 5. Could be a nice fight for me in the future. There's no question a lot of people would likely love to see that fight, but given that Hooker is now ranked number 5, would he be interested in fighting the lower ranked Pimblett, even if Paddy is one of the fastest rising stars in the game? That aside, if this fight does happen, who do you see taking it? The Hangman or the baddie? Up next, Alex Pereira receives warning for Khalil Rountree fight. As it stands right now, Alex Pereira is a considerable favorite on the betting lines to take his upcoming bout with Khalil Rountree. But not only does Chael Sonnen think Rountree is going to win the light heavyweight crown at UFC 307, he believes the challenger will walk through Poatan. Since the Pereira-Rountree fight was announced, almost all the talk has been around why is the fight happening, and further, what's going to be next for Pereira. In fact, some have argued the UFC is trying to protect Pereira, rather than having him face the Dagestani smashing machine, Magomed Ankalaev. But during a recent episode of the Good Guy Bad Guy show, Sonnen outlined why he thinks that Rountree will hear and knew at UFC 307. Here's some of what he had to say. First off, let me give you the hot take of the day. Khalil Rountree is going to walk through Pereira. It's the worst matchup for Pereira I could think of. Excuse me, this is WWE SmackDown invading Raw, and let me explain. When we think of who's going to fight for a title on pay-per-view, we think of other guys that have won a whole bunch of fights on pay-per-view. Well, Khalil was from SmackDown. He came from the other show. He's been fighting on the Fight Nights and at the UFC Apex and things like this. He still won 5 in a row. He stopped 4 of those sons of guns, and one of them is a former #1 contender, our good friend Anthony Lionheart Smith. In addition, the American Gangster said this: "We can't just overlook Khalil, and I'll tell you this because I don't know how familiar you are or the rest of the fans are with Khalil, but he does his absolute best work when he's being attacked by a kickboxer. It's not Khalil swarming somebody or taking them down or submitting them. He is a counter fighter, and he loves when you punch or kick at him first." It's an interesting take from Sonnen for sure, but he's not the only one who's warned people to not overlook Rountree and his feared arsenal. But what do you think? Is Pereira in for a rough night against Khalil Rountree? Or will Poatan extend his reign as the light heavyweight king? If you're curious, currently Pereira is carrying odds in the range of -410 to -455 to win the fight. Now let's look at Sean O'Malley continues to roast Conor McGregor. Sean O'Malley has acknowledged that Conor McGregor was one of his idols as he began his journey to become a UFC star. But it certainly looks like the days of Sugar heaping praise on McGregor are long gone. As O'Malley rose through the UFC ranks, he credited McGregor for being a motivating factor in his chosen career and how he fights. But O'Malley's relationship with McGregor jumped off the rails after the star referenced Sugar's flag for Ulsterine. McGregor did so while blasting boxing's Ryan Garcia for his Ulsterine ban. Well, since then, O'Malley has let it be known he didn't care for McGregor lumping him in with Garcia. Further, the bantamweight champion has taken several pokes at McGregor in return. Case in point, during a recent interview with ESPN, O'Malley was asked about whether McGregor remains the face of the UFC. And while Sugar acknowledged that McGregor is, he didn't refrain from dissing the polarizing star. Right now, it's Conor McGregor, 100%. He's a dork, but it's the truth. For me to get to that, I need to go out there and knock out Merab. I go up to featherweight, I beat Ilia Topuria, I beat Max Holloway, I beat Umar Nurmagomedov. I'm 3 fights away from being one of the greatest of all time, one of the most exciting of all time. And O'Malley also took the opportunity to dig into McGregor's game, and why no one should argue the Notorious One is an all-time great. There's a difference. No one thinks Conor's the greatest fighter of all time. He was lacking skills, lacked title defenses, but entertainment-wise, he's the best in the world. Entertainment-wise, he was the best. Yeah, it's hard to argue that McGregor still isn't the biggest draw in MMA, but as O'Malley outlined, you certainly don't hear his name mentioned in too many GOAT debates. That aside, O'Malley also got into his issues with McGregor. The way O'Malley sees it, Conor is jealous of the massive success Sugar has achieved. It's almost because you go back all my interviews like, I want to be like Conor. I want to do what Conor did. I want to do what Conor did. Now I'm 29, defended the belt, something he's never done by the way. And I just feel pure jealousy from it. It's really weird because times change. He's a little bit older now. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. He just pulled out because of his toe, which is just not Conor-like. I feel a lot of jealousy from Conor McGregor, to be honest, which sucks. Do you think McGregor is jealous of O'Malley's success and the fact that he could be drawing attention away from Conor at this juncture? Now, let's take a look at Muhammad Mokaev reveals what's next for his career. After Dana White rocked the MMA world by announcing Muhammad Mokaev would not be re-signed by the UFC, a lot of folks predicted it wouldn't take long before the undefeated flyweight found a new employer. Well, that prediction has proved to be right. Mokaev completed his UFC deal in July by recording a unanimous decision victory over Manel Kape. But immediately after UFC 304 wrapped up, White confirmed Mokaev would not be back. White alluded to the street altercations Mokaev had with Kape leading up to their bout, and he also claimed there were other reasons UFC staff didn't want him on the roster. Well, given Mokaev is only 24, and because he's undefeated, many noted at the time he'd receive offers soon. More recently, Bahrain's Brave FC confirmed to MMA Fighting that they've re-signed Mokaev. The Dagestan-born fighter competed for Brave FC several times after turning pro. The promotion's president, Mohammed Shahid, was quoted saying, "There's been an unjust persecution of his character and attempts to use defamation to feed personal vendettas, and it's evidently clear that there is no clear reasons as to why the best athlete in the world cannot compete. This is not what the sport is all about, and for Brave CF to have him back is fantastic. And he now can become a voice for all these challenges. Not only that, his return solidifies our ethos to have the best fight the best, irrespective of any other variable, be it of creed, color, or marketability." We would like to welcome back Muhammad Mokaev, an undefeated superstar who is an amateur legend with 2 IMMAF world titles, and someone who's proven to be the best flyweight in the world, with no losses to his amateur or professional record. This is a very exciting time for Brave CF. there you have it. It'll be interesting to see how Mokaev does and whether we might see him back in the UFC down the line. Alex Pereira revealed that Israel Adesanya may have had a leg injury during his fight with Dricus Du Plessis because of his lack of leg kicks. Maybe Adesanya had an injury, I don't know, you could see he kicked very little. That inside leg kick of Adesanya is very good, he didn't continue to do it, he's only throwing hands. Here's what the MMA community had to say. I blamed it on him falling in love with his boxing, but that low key makes no sense. Izzy throws his low kick in literally every one of his fights. I actually wondered that too, one of the best kickboxers in the organization and rarely used the kicks. He didn't low kick because his opponent had an actual threat of the TD, something Pereira has never experienced in the cage. I think Izzy was just focused on getting a KO, so he was just boxing and being aggressive. But what do you think? Did it look like something was wrong with the last stylebender? Top comments. The fact Tom has to wait for his chance at the unified belt makes the UFC a joke. O'Malley just now realizing he still has a very far way to go in terms of star power. BMF belt is the dumbest thing in the UFC. Two white guys representing Mexican independence event. At least Canelo is having a real Mexican event.